Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Escape into a Cause. Let's be honest, we all have our guilty escapes. We binge TV, we scroll endlessly on our phone, or if you're like me, you fall down a Reddit rabbit hole. But what if we spent just a little of that time escaping into something that truly matters? I'm Stephanie Dyer, and this podcast is for anyone who wants to turn good intentions into meaningful action. If you're in Central Texas, we've got you covered, with conversations featuring incredible local nonprofits and ways to make a difference in our community. And no matter where you're tuning in from, you'll love our Topics That Matter segment at the start of each episode. It's where we dive into fascinating questions about giving back, building connections, and making an impact. All right, so since it's our first episode, we're going to do things a little differently. Instead of chatting with a nonprofit, we're taking this time to get acquainted and set the stage for what's to come. Plus, we're diving into topics that matter to explore a big question. Should we talk openly about giving, or does sharing ways that we give come off as, well, bragging? Is it okay to share the good you do, or does true generosity belong behind the scenes, driven purely by the heart? In future episodes, we're going to kick off things with more thought-provoking questions like, beyond the feel-good factor, can serving others also be self-serving? What is the gender philanthropy gap? And government versus nonprofits. Who's better equipped to tackle society's biggest challenges? But first, I am excited to introduce who is going to be my banter buddy and co-host for Topics That Matter. She is a longtime champion of good causes, way before I even thought of starting this podcast. She is brilliant, hilarious, and terrifyingly organized. Courtney Dickey is the yin to my yang on this journey, the expert to my novice, and the kind of person who makes me question whether we're even operating in the same 24 hours. She finds joy in things I couldn't fake interest in if I tried, like Robert's Rules of Order. For those unfamiliar, Robert's Rules are basically a user manual for running efficient and orderly meetings complete with motions, voting procedures, and quorums. Meanwhile, I'm over here Googling, what is a quorum? And yet, this is exactly why I love her. Courtney has spent over 15 years with the Junior League of Austin, leading initiatives and mentoring others. Now, as president, she guides the organization's 2,300 members with her trademark blend of impactful leadership and community focus. Her resourcefulness is legendary, and I mean that. She once turned a chance sorority recruitment meeting into a thriving legal career, including taking HomeAway public and overseeing a multi-million-dollar acquisition at Dosh. Today, as Chief Legal Officer at Zen Business, she's helping shape the future for small business owners everywhere. Courtney and I, we're very different in many ways. She's a former national VP of membership for Kappa Delta sorority. I spent college oblivious to Greek life. She has spent years leading in the nonprofit world. I'm still figuring out how I want to meaningfully give back. And we have plenty in common. We both work full-time in our for-profit companies, have incredibly supportive husbands, and we are raising 2 wonderful kids each. Oh, and we can see when the other is still up late at night because, lucky me, Courtney is my neighbor. What I love most about Courtney, though, is her heart. She's been putting her good intentions into action for years, and she inspires people like me who are still figuring out how to get involved. So, Courtney, welcome to Escape into a Cause.
Oh, Steph.
How are you doing?
Me. I am so good and humbled by that intro, and I love you equally, and I'm just so fortunate to have you in my life. So thank you for letting me join this adventure with you.
Of course. I'm so excited you're here.
It's going to be so fun.
I can't tell you. I'm new in the nonprofit space. I'm probably going to ask a lot of questions, but you're the expert. And so are the nonprofits that we'll interview in the future.
I mean, I'm just along for the ride and have certainly been the beneficiary of working with so many nonprofits, but I'm really excited about the speakers that you're going to have on this podcast because the executive directors, the development directors of these nonprofits, they truly are the experts and the heroes in this world.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this podcast, I'm a sucker for good stories, but especially ones how small gestures can make a big impact. So Courtney, is there someone who's made an impression on you, whether it was through a grand gesture or even a small act of kindness?
Oh gosh, 2 examples come to mind. So first, so when I moved to Austin, I didn't know anyone. I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And someone said, hey, to meet like-minded women and to get involved in the community, which I really think is the best way to understand and know your community, you should join the Junior League of Austin. I'm like, well, what's the Junior League of Austin? So I went and explored it and I joined it. Giving to the community and figuring out what the gaps are and understanding the agencies that are addressing those gaps and standing side by side with them to solve problems, that's truly the best part of the Junior League. But there's this sort of secondary benefit, and you alluded to it, what do you personally gain from altruistic acts? You mentioned Homeway. I'd been at Homeway forever. For about 9 years. Homeway was eventually acquired by Expedia, and I got to work on that deal, which was exciting. And then I finally decided I think I can be a general counsel, which is the head of a legal department. I was looking at startups because Austin is such an entrepreneurial community, and there was a startup looking for a GC, put my name in the hat, got the interview. So I'm interviewing, things are going well, and I'm feeling really hopeful. And it took a while, and I was like, time kills all deals. Like, this may not happen. I finally get the offer, and I'm like, oh, wonderful, and said yes, very excited. And I asked them, I said, hey, just out of curiosity, why the lag in timing? And they said, well, we reached out to someone that we know who's in the Junior League of Austin. And the person they reached out to is past president of the Junior League of Austin, who I didn't personally know very well. She was and is the executive director of a large nonprofit here in Austin. And it just so happened that the CEO of the company I was interviewing with was on her board. So he's on the board of that nonprofit.
Oh, wow.
So he made a phone call. Obviously, I didn't list her as a reference. I don't know her personally. And said, hey, we're looking at this girl. She's pretty green. She's never been a general counsel before. She has in-house experience. Do you have any experience with her? And this woman, which, I mean, her name is Laura Wolf, and she's phenomenal, said, I don't know her well, but I do know her leadership in the Junior League, and let me tell you about that leadership. And so had it not been for that one phone call to a woman in the Junior League who I barely knew to talk, hey, I can't really say what she's done on the legal side. Let me tell you what she's done in a leadership capacity in a nonprofit. She's the reason I got that job, and she's the reason why I've been able to sit at the helm of legal departments ever since. And so that's a big one.
That's a great story.
The other story actually involves my kids, and it was just this past summer. So we are finally at that stage where we're going to overnight camps. Big deal.
It is a big deal.
I know. And Central, this was not a big deal, by the way, in Dallas-Fort Worth. It wasn't a thing. And then I moved to Austin, and all these kids go to camp. And so it's, what camp are you going to go to? And so our daughter was going to an all-girls camp. She didn't really know anyone. We go to the bus, and she's being so brave. And I mean, this is like a 7-year-old. And I'm like, okay, any minute, the tears are going to come, but we're dropping her off. She's being really brave and confident, and I get to go on the bus to put her into her seat, and everything's going well. In fact, I'm having a more difficult time with this departure than she is, but she starts to tear up a little. I'm like, okay, something's happening. And she said, I just wish someone would sit next to me.
Oh.
She didn't know anyone. No one was sitting next to her. There were a lot of girls on that bus who did know each other. And I was like, well, what am I going to do? Am I just going to pull a kid? Like, I'm trying to explain to her, you'll meet friends. Like, I'm so sorry that you don't have someone to sit next to on the bus. And then again, this woman in the Junior League who I had no idea she would be there. I don't know her that well. We know each other by name. But she stepped up behind me, total surprise, and said, Charlotte, my daughter, she's a little bit nervous about going to camp. Would you mind sitting next to her? And you should have seen Charlotte's face, Stephanie. Like, she lit up. Those tears that were about to fall, like on the cusp, stayed in. She moved up. She sat next to this girl, and I get off the bus, and I'm now just sobbing. I'm like, Ashley, thank you so much. I had no idea you were there. And she was like, hey, mom to mom, I saw that. I saw what was about to happen. And I made that sort of magic moment, and it calmed me down. It calmed my daughter. So, I mean, people doing good things for each other, people reaching out, people she didn't have to do that, right? She didn't know me that well. She knew my daughter's name from Facebook, and to go out and say, hey, Charlotte, you would do me a favor if you would sit next to my daughter. It was just so impactful.
That makes me so happy for Charlotte.
I know.
It makes me not only so happy, but you're checking 2 boxes, right?
Yeah.
One is that someone did something meaningful for you, but 2, they were both through connections through Junior League.
Yeah.
Which,
through a total nonprofit. I know.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk about self-serving in ways other than giving to others.
That you never anticipate. It absolutely comes back.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm so excited you're tackling these topics, because I do think it can enrich people's lives in so many ways that they don't even think about.
Oh my gosh, I love that. When I'm thinking about Austin, I always think about this time in my life when I was going to UT. I was transferring to UT, fall of 2011. I put up an ad on Craigslist to say, hey, will anybody rent a house? I have a toddler son and a husband. We were a family of 3 when I was still going through school. And this man in his late 70s, Archie McNeil, reached out to me through Craigslist. And finding something that was affordable and close to the college campus that allowed us enough space for a family of 3 was really difficult. He's the only person that reached out to me. We went to his home. It was 800 square feet, very small. This man shook our hand. We never paid a deposit. We never signed any papers. We stayed there for 4 years. And even when I offered to pay more rent, he said, Stephanie, you keep saving for a home. And that kindness, it was one thing after another. When I said something about them being our landlord, they said, we're not a landlord, we're family, you know? And so those are the Texas stories. Escape into a Cause is sponsored by Nightlight Insurance Agency. You know how a nightlight gives you comfort and peace of mind in the dark? That's exactly what Nightlight aims to do. Guide you through life's uncertainties with personalized insurance for your home, auto, business, and more. Nightlight Insurance strives to provide its clients the best coverage at the best price without sacrificing on customer service. Here's what one client had to say. Nightlight was able to lower our car insurance significantly, answered all our questions, and returned our calls promptly. Very professional, would highly recommend. So it's no surprise Nightlight has a 5-star rating on Google. Nightlight also makes this podcast possible by covering production costs so all other sponsorship dollars and gifts can go directly to nonprofits and volunteers. And as part of their mission to give back, Nightlight proudly donates $1,000 to every nonprofit we interview. If you are a sponsor interested in giving back to our podcast, please find us on social media and let us know. Nightlight is an agency focused on personalized service and giving back. See how much you could save and how good it feels to have peace of mind by visiting nightlightinsurance.com. So let's talking about giving. This is our topic that matters today, and I want to dive deep into it because it's not just a topic, it's the driving force behind this podcast. It's 2009. My husband, Brett, and I moved to Austin from San Francisco with a 1-year-old. And at that time, Brett is working full-time. I'm working part-time and going to school. But I still consistently get this little bug that I want to go escape from the work, from the school, even maybe from the parenting a little bit, and I want to go do something good.
Yeah.
And I, time and time again, would just go Google a nonprofit. And then I would maybe be intimidated by the time commitment, or I wouldn't know really where to start, or I would be busy during that time. And I felt overwhelmed on my own trying to navigate that space.
Yeah.
And fast forward, my son is a sophomore now, and in Young Men's Service League, or YMSL, which is a mother-son organization where moms and sons commit to a certain amount of service hours for all 4 years of high school. And seeing all the nonprofits that we have been able to provide volunteer hours towards, and that connection that I've been able to make with my son during this time makes me realize I was intimidated for no reason. And I think what happened was, for years, I didn't know anyone that volunteered or talked about giving. And I think the truth is people just didn't talk about it.
Right.
People talked about their beauty routine, they talked about politics, they talked about religion. No one talked about giving.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to talk about this hot topic, but Courtney, why do you think people don't talk about it as much? And maybe it's a little different in junior league.
No, I mean, truly, like, I don't know, is there a taboo around it? Is it something that hopefully there's no shame around it, right? Or does it suggest that you have sort of free time that others don't? And so do you think it's a little bit of bragging? I don't know. And I do think, to your point, the intimidation factor is very real. And the wonderful thing about like Young Men's Service League or National Charity League, which is the equivalent of mothers and daughters volunteering together, and even the workspace, right? And I love to talk about at some point sort of corporate involvement in the community. They plan it for you. They organize it for you. They call the organization beforehand and say, how many volunteers can you take? What time do they show up? And what do they need to bring with them? As opposed to you having to look at, and I think my last research, I think there are 19,000 nonprofits in Austin alone. So where do you start, right? And so yay for these organizations. And again, I think your employer can really take an active role here for organizing those opportunities on behalf of individuals, because it makes it so much more approachable.
I completely agree. Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I love it, but I don't watch it religiously, but yes.
Okay, so there is this one episode called Anonymous, where Larry David donates millions to either a hospital or an art exhibit, but he gets a wing named after him. wing was donated by Larry David. And then everyone goes and looks at the other wing. And it says wing donated by Anonymous. So you can only imagine that everyone was so enthralled with Anonymous.
Yeah.
You know, Larry David,
Yeah.
good job, small
Good
clap. But when
Golf
they
clap.
said Anonymous, everyone was
Yeah.
roaring with laughter. Oh my gosh, someone gave out of the kindness of their heart.
Yeah.
Right? They didn't have to talk about it. They didn't have to tell anyone.
Right.
Here's the thing. Ted Danson was the one in this episode that gave it, and he would just whisper it a little around, and
I'm
everyone's
anonymous.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
They would all go, it's Ted Danson. So then Larry has this outburst.
Of course
and
he does.
He's ranting, this is fake philanthropy and faux anonymity. And it's so good.
Yes.
And it just really makes you think about philanthropy and anonymity.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that?
Listen, giving is giving, right? And so if you have the capacity to do it, however you do it, whether you're named or not named, do it. And when I say giving, I think we can talk about lots of different flavors that comes in. So certainly monetary giving, right, from your purse. But then there's also time. Time is truly a gift to nonprofits, right? They have limited resources. That's usually why they are a nonprofit organization. And so anyone who could give time, who can volunteer, who can be there to do things that they don't have the capacity to do, huge. And then there's also giving time of skills, right? So for example, I'm a lawyer. I volunteered with Texas Rio Grande Legal Aid to give people legal counsel for 15 minutes that otherwise wouldn't get it. So giving is giving. Do it however you want to. But I do think, and when you talk about, your previous question of why isn't this discussed? Well, it's not discussed because a lot of people do it under the blanket of darkness, and people don't know about it, and they are anonymously giving. Some for perhaps good reasons. They feel attached to something, and yet they can't publicly come out with that attachment for whatever reasons, political or otherwise. But when you do attach a name to something, when you do attach a face, you give an example. And you also show this is okay. In fact, this is a good thing to do. It's a benevolent thing to do. I feel good about the act that I've done. And shouldn't you do something similar if you have the capacity to do so? I certainly don't think it's bragging from an egotistical point of view when people are honest and open about it. I think it's actually a great example, and they're hopefully encouraging others to do something similar.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I do think it influences. One of the examples was, this was just last year, Dr. Ruth Gottsman donated $1 billion to Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing that speech, Dr. Ruth Gottsman saying, I am donating this, and everyone in front of me, you are getting free education. And the entire auditorium just roaring, so excited. And that inspired me.
Yeah.
So I think when you talk about influence and inspiration, anonymity can be good in the right place, but I think people should talk about it. I love to hear when people are giving their resources, and I think it's really inspiring.
Listen, not to get too far into gender issues, but we know that women are more involved in philanthropic giving. We know that there are more women sitting on nonprofit boards, certainly, than for-profit boards and in the corporate world. And I think growing up, and hopefully this is now changing in 2025 and beyond, but there's this expectation for women to sort of, hey, whatever work you're doing, that's lovely, but it's sort of behind the scenes. Well, that behind the scenes work is extremely, beneficial in terms of what they're doing for others within our communities. And so when you're sort of told to keep that behind the scenes, unfortunately, that just perpetuates. And so I think we're still sort of seeing those gender identified expectations when it comes to the work that you do. And for many women who I know do not work in the corporate world, they don't consider the board seats that they sit on or the philanthropic responsibilities that they have as work. And it very much is so. But how do we define that? And what do we choose to talk about and what do we choose not to? Because they're not on LinkedIn, right? And yet that work is so important and truly critical for our communities. So
I think what you talk about gender differences, we're going to dive into that in future episodes. So men in the business world have been known to self-promote more than women.
Sure.
The two most talked men in the country are unapologetically not humble, whether you like them or not.
Yes.
Donald Trump and Elon Musk have risen through not being humble.
That is,
so when you think about when women are doing philanthropic contributions, they're likely not to be as vocal about it.
Yes. No, was invited to speak to a women's ERG employee resource group at a company recently. And my whole point of being there was to encourage philanthropic involvement and getting involved in your community and finding out what your passion is and trying to be a part of the solution in your local cities and neighborhoods. But she asked this great question, which is like, hey, Courtney, thanks so much. You're talking to a women's ERG and you're telling us to join these nonprofit boards, which, by the way, does take time. And yet we still haven't found a solution for more women on the corporate boards. And so by doing that, are you actually limiting women's potential to get more seats, in board level positions? I'm like, well, no, I hope my message would be the same in front of men's groups. But I do see that you're saying, hey, the nonprofit world's pretty saturated with women. So how do we encourage more men to get involved and to say that it is okay to do both? And I think that's my biggest message is you can accomplish both. And by the way, I think you'll be a better person if you do both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We live in this modern world of social media, and I think there's a lot of bragging out there, right? There's showing off your Amazon purchases.
Oh, yeah.
There's showing off your fashion tips. There's
Right.
showing off maybe your car, your home remodel. And I'm not here to judge that, but I think there is a difference. Unlike in capitalistic endeavors, philanthropy is often seen as something we should do purely from the heart. But what if we were to brag, not so much for self-promotion, but brag about influencing others to do that good?
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that a great definition of an influencer? A different spin on influencer. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I do love this idea, like, of sort of shredding and getting rid of this expectation that if you are doing something philanthropic or for the good of others, that it must be done from the heart. And if it's not, if you're not quiet about it, then you must be doing it for other ulterior reasons and motives. And by the way, why is that wrong? What's wrong with that? At the end of the day, the kind act is being done. And if you also get secondary benefits from it, then I think that's okay. And we can actually celebrate that. Yeah.
We are no strangers to pride in Texas. You go to a UT game, there is excessive pride.
Yes.
There is nothing wrong with being pride.
Right.
One's pride for their country, one's
Yeah.
pride for their college team, and you're proud of your children's accomplishments, right? I think we should do the same with giving. I'm sure it's done already. I'm sure people are talking about it. I just don't hear it enough. And I really want to encourage it on this show.
Absolutely.
And by encouraging it, I also want to ask each guest what you've done that you are proud of recently. And Courtney, is there anything in the past few months that you've done, whether it's volunteer?
Yeah.
You could talk about you helped someone. It was a kind gesture. It doesn't have to be nonprofit related.
Yes. So there are big things in my career that I'm proud of. I'm proud to be a mother. I think I make good decisions most of the time as a mother and bringing up two wonderful children. But I am currently president of the Junior League of Austin. I have about 5 more months left in this role. There are over 2,300 women in the Junior League of Austin. So the Junior League of Austin is actually a subsidiary, if you will, of a larger parent company, Association of Junior Leagues International, and we're one of the largest in the world. So over 2,300 women here in the Central Texas community. And when I knew I was going to step into the president role, I was like, there is no way I'm going to have a connection with over 2,300 women, right? Like, I don't know their names. I run into people all the time like, oh, I'm a sustaining member, I'm an active member, and I've never met them before because there's over 2,300. And so I thought, what can I do to create some connection? And so I had our staff pull a spreadsheet of everyone's birthdays. So I call every single member on their birthday. So my term started June 1st, it will end May 31st. And so every day I have a list of whose birthday. We have not had a day without a birthday. I called on Christmas, I call on Thanksgiving, I call on New Year's Day. But it has been so wonderful. And as you can imagine, 60% of the people don't answer, right? Because I'm a phone number that they don't know. But I always leave a message and I send a follow-up text. But the ones that do answer, it is a connection. And I think connection is so critical. And Stephanie, I have found people, a woman named Sally. Sally, hey, this is Courtney Dickey, president of the Junior League of Austin. Just calling to wish you a happy birthday. How's your day going? Hey, I'm actually in treatment for breast cancer. Wow, Sally, I didn't know that. Can you tell me more? And then I follow up with Sally every month to find out how that treatment's going. There's another woman. Hi, Courtney Dickey, just calling to wish you happy birthday. Wow, today's my 30th birthday. Really exciting. I'm on my way to being induced. Another woman, I'm in the ER room because my daughter just went into labor 4 months early. Like, you find these moments and these connections where they didn't plan for me to be on the other end of the phone, but they appreciated it. I got to hear their story. They wanted to tell the story. I got to follow up with them. And so even if it's just a voicemail and I actually don't get to talk to them or it's a text, I just feel like they are reminded that they're part of something, that community matters, that they matter. And it's truly the best part of being president, the best part. And that is leadership, in my opinion. It has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with anything that people will see. It's those phone calls to just tell someone you matter and I thought of you today.
I love that story so much. Good for you.
Thanks. I'm proud every day.
Yeah. I am so proud of you. 2,300 members you're calling
over
to say happy birthday.
To say happy birthday. I know.
I don't know these 2,300 women, but there's some people in the world that don't get a call on their birthday.
And so we have some that they're called sustainer emeritus. They're over the age of 80. Oh. And now they're in a facility and they don't get other phone calls. Yeah. And so, I'll probably never meet them and they don't remember my name, but hopefully they remember that phone call.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. I don't know who's going to top that in the future, but
I'm sure it will be done. Yeah.
Hey, listeners, isn't Courtney amazing? I mean, calling 2,300 members on their birthdays, that's over 6 calls a day, often to people she's never met. Incredible, right? So today, we explored acts of kindness that Courtney and I experienced right here in Austin. From small gestures like helping a child find a friend to bigger ones like vouching for someone's career or giving a young family a chance to build their life. And here's the thing. These acts of kindness don't just help in the moment. They create ripple effects that bring people together and make a lasting impact. It's the care and connection we share with one another that truly strengthens our bonds. And kindness? It's not just something to experience. It's something to talk about too. This podcast was inspired by a time in my life when I wanted to do more, but I didn't know how to give back. And honestly, I'm not alone. Did you know that nearly 200 posts on the Austin Reddit forum from the past year mentioned volunteering? That's a lot of people turning to an anonymous forum for guidance. People clearly want to help, and not everyone knows how to get started. While I see nonprofit posts and viral feel-good stories online, the ones that truly inspire me to act come from people I know. That's why I'd love to hear from people like you. What are the ways that you give back? Let's keep flipping the script on what we celebrate online. Sure, social media is full of highlights about looking good or making money, and hey, I love those things too. But imagine scrolling and seeing posts from your friends and family about volunteering, donating, or spreading kindness. I want to hear about your stories. Use #GoodBrag to share the good you're doing. You might just inspire someone else to start their own ripple effect. Oh, and if you're looking for ways to get involved, check out our Facebook and Instagram pages. You can fill out a quick form to stay updated. Plus, we're partnering with sponsors to give away prizes for Central Texans making a difference. So sign up. If you enjoyed this episode, follow and review Escape into a Cause wherever you listen to podcasts. Not a fan? No problem. Hold that review. I promise you should stick around. Next week, we're diving into the incredible work of Sage Studio, where artists with intellectual and developmental disabilities create inspiring pieces that are changing perspectives and lives. You don't want to miss it. So join us next week as we escape into a cause. Special thanks to Corey McCain at Just Push Record Studios, Michelle Anderson at Pinkle Toes Photography, Graham Thompson and Jaden Dyer for the music, Todd Thompson for editing, Tim Nicholson for branding, and Nightlight Insurance for sponsoring.